Hi everyone, Steve Wyss here, joined by Kevin Harper for the latest Allsportsbettingpod cricket IPL match previews. This is the last matches of the regular season, Kev. It's been a long old IPL, but the finale is in sight, and we have one really meaningful match and one complete dead rubber on Sunday. Let's start with the meaningful match, and it's RPS against Kings 11. It's a simple winner takes it all, isn't it, this one?
Absolutely, Steve. Yeah, knockout cricket wasn't meant to start until next Tuesday in this Indian Premier League, but it's actually going to start a couple of days early, such as the way that the league has panned out. Third place Pune take on fifth place Kings 11. Pune win. Not only do they win, but they go into the qualifier, so they get 2 bites of the cherry. But if they lose, it don't matter how many bites of the cherry they want, they won't be getting any. Kings 11 win. They'll be facing Kolkata in the eliminator on Wednesday, but they've been playing elimination cricket for a good week or so now, so they're probably well rehearsed in that. But again, if they lose, that'll be them done for the season as well. So literally everything is on the line here. As Abba would say, the winner really does take it all in this one.
Quite literally. I think it's fair to say both teams have been in fairly good form recently, so it's not as if one team comes into the contest struggling. You could say both have confidence and momentum, and the bookies can't separate either team in this instance, Kev. Rising Pune slight favourites, but who do you think is going to win?
Both have confidence in a way, Steve, but Pune have already ballsed up one chance to get into the final four, haven't they? So that would be a massive concern. You know, if I was looking at it from that point of view, I have a funny feeling whoever wins the game will bat first. I've just got a feeling that neither of them are going to cope particularly well with scoreboard pressure. In most knockout games, scoreboard pressure is a really, really big thing. But I just get the feeling in this one, it's even bigger. It's almost like this is the biggest of the knockout games, because at least if you get knocked out in the playoffs, well, you've made the playoffs. You know, you've been one of the best 4 sides in the competition. If you get knocked out in this game, basically your 14 games have been for absolutely nothing whatsoever, and I don't think either side are going to want that. So obviously this is going to be an extremely competitive game, that goes without saying. I've just a feeling that runs on the board will be a big thing in this game. I can't say I can split them before the game. I mean, if you forced me into a selection, I would go with the Kings 11 purely because they've been in this situation for the last 2 games. They've had to win to stay alive, so they're more natural in this situation now. But that doesn't mean to say that Pune can't play in it. I mean, Hellfire, they've got God knows how many cricketers who've coped and delivered under pressure. You know, Steve Smith, Ben Stokes, MS Dhoni, they've not got to where they are in their careers without being able to handle pressure of a knockout situation or a must-win situation. So there's that. But, I mean, you know, we know that the Kings 11 can do it. They've done it in their last 2 games. And to be fair, they've done it fairly emphatically as well, haven't they? So I would side with them, but I'd much rather be on the team that bats first, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it, is this one? Now, in terms of match bets, do you think it's going to be a tight one, and under 336.5 runs is your main selection? Yeah,
it just seems a high line, Steve. I know if we go back throughout the course of history this season on this ground, then, you know, maybe the line is a little on the low side, but sometimes you've got to play the occasion that's in front of you. And, you know, it is a big occasion. As I've just said, you know, both sides will want to qualify. I do have a feeling that whoever bats second may well struggle. I can see them, you know, if they get into a situation where they need 8, 8.5, 9 and over, you can see some silly shots coming into play here. And you really wouldn't want that, would you? You know, I mean, I think back to that game when the Kings 11 played Bangalore last weekend, and you know, they were going along not brilliantly, but they were going along okay, and then all of a sudden Maxwell gets that absolute silly reverse sweeping hoikey thing out and gets caught at short third man, and that's the kind of brain fades that can happen when sides get under pressure. So I've just a feeling that the second innings is going to be particularly low. Whether it's low enough to win the game, that's a different story, but I can see whoever bats second being bowled out or restricted to 150 or less. Do I think the first innings is going to contain 190 or on near there? No, I don't. It's just about, when you bat first in this game, putting up a score that you think you can defend. There's no, you know, you have to be a really, really brave person to take risks in a game like this, Steve. particularly unnecessary risks, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think then also if you factor in that both bowling attacks have significantly improved over the last 6, 7, 8 games, they're probably arguably the strength of the two sides now, which is amazing when you think where they come from at the start of the tournament. Everything points to a lower scoring game here. I just can't see whoever bats first getting too many more than 160. A, there's not a need for it, and B, the game just means too much.
Under 336.5 runs then, that's your main selection. Now let's talk about Ben Stokes. This is his last game for RPS in this IPL. I mean, it's fair to say he's been worth every penny, really. I mean, he's delivered in all aspects of the game. Even the other day, he took an incredible catch, didn't he? This is a guy that's taken the IPL by storm, and you think he can sign off well, don't you, and potentially take man of the match?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is his last game of the tournament. He leaves after this game, whether Pune win or lose, to join up with England. And he'll want to go off on a high when they've paid an awful lot of money for him. I don't think he necessarily thinks that he has to repay them that money. They paid that money in good faith. He's already repaid it, really. What's he got? 2, 3, 4 man of the match awards. Like you say, that catch the other night was just brilliant. His 100 earlier in the competition was fantastic, and he's delivered a couple of wins with the ball as well. If he combines the three of them in this game, he's going to go very, very close. If Pune do win this game, Steve, I can't believe they're going to win it without a significant contribution from Stokes, whether it's with the bat, whether it's with the ball, or whether he does something magical in the field. And if he does 2 of them, then he's going to be, quite clearly a leading player in the game. He doesn't lack for motivation. And I think 10 to 1's a decent enough price to have a stab at it. If Pune win the game, you've already eliminated half of the field in this market. And it's just hard to see someone else having a bigger impact than Stokes, given the contributions that he makes.
Okay, so Ben Stokes, man of the match, and under 336.5 runs for this first match. Now let's move on to the second game of the day, and a complete dead rubber. Delhi Daredevils against Royal Challengers Bangalore. Fair to say, quite a few people expected Delhi to be in this position at the start of the campaign. As for RCB, well, what a disaster they've had. 1.91 apiece in this particular instance, but you're strongly in the Delhi side of things here, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned dead rubbers, because dead's what Bangalore have been all season, haven't they? There's been absolutely no life in them whatsoever. They've been a shambles, haven't they? The advantage they've got, let's go through the advantages that they do have in the game. They've not played since last weekend, so they're fresh enough. But in that game last weekend, I fancied Kolkata to beat them, and they didn't just beat them, did they? They absolutely obliterated them. That can't have done anything for their confidence whatsoever, let alone their motivation, which, they haven't been able to draw upon so far in the tournament, so why are they suddenly going to do it now? The clear disadvantage is their form is terrible. They're not a particularly cohesive side. And arguably their best batsman in AB de Villiers has disappeared to join up with South Africa, so they're not going to have him either. And when their struggles with the bat have been as apparent as they've been, he's going to be a big loss, I fancy. You look back at the reverse fixture, I think it was the first game of the season, wasn't it, for both sides? No, second game for Bangalore, sorry, first game for Delhi. Delhi should have won the game in Bangalore. They collapsed late on, but they should have won the game. I don't think they'll collapse this time. I think they're batting much better now. Yes, they've had the odd shocker in them recently, but that's been to a decent side. Mumbai, Kings 11, sides on an upward curve. This Bangalore side is certainly not on that. I've mentioned in the last couple of games that Delhi have played that they have got something to play for. They are all young cricketers, if not with Indian aspirations, with contracts for next season to play for, and they seem to have replied in kind. We've seen so far this week Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant really come to the party. Karun Nair the other night. It wouldn't be a surprise if Sanju Samson delivers the goods in this game. I just think Delhi are they're just overpriced. For me, they're the favourites in this game. I can't believe that bookmakers can't separate them. Seen absolutely nothing in Bangalore at any stage this season to suggest that they should be level with Delhi in this match. Let alone favourites that some bookmakers have them as. it just looks like a home win. If Delhi put in one of those absolute stinker of performance, well, then so be it. But prices going into this game are all wrong for me. Delhi should be much shorter than they are.
I'm pretty sure RCB have been pretty much favourites in every single game, Kev. It's quite ridiculous. They've gone a whole campaign being a favourite in a match. They've hardly won any of them. So Delhi to win at even money, that's the top price at the time of recording. And you also think Delhi are going to hit the most sixes in this game. This is an odds against price. And I'm guessing, well, I know one of the reasons is because AB de Villiers isn't here anymore.
That's absolutely one of the reasons, yeah. That added to the fact that this batting lineup, you know, it's had so many chances now, hasn't it? And it's just not delivering. Yes, there's a massive risk. You know, we are taking on the biggest six-hitter the game has ever seen in Chris Gayle, but he hasn't delivered anything so far this season. We're taking on what many people would consider to be the best batsman in the world right now in Virat Kohli. But even the sixes that he's delivered have come very, very infrequently. So really, as a collective unit, without de Villiers, who is their leading six-hitter of this season, even though he hasn't played, you know, I think he's only played 2/3 of the games pretty much, hasn't he? Which says it all. Without de Villiers, I'm not convinced that they're going to hit too many sixes. Absolutely no reason for Delhi to change their way, Steve. Last 2, 3, 4 matches, we've seen them belt sixes, haven't we? They've completely gone from scratching around to belting it out of the park. Even the other night, they were hitting sixes for fun when the need arose. And when you factor in that Delhi have got a pretty decent bowling attack, even without Morris and Rabada, certainly in terms of conceding sixes, I just think Delhi are decent value there. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Bangalore stink the place out here. And if they do, then Delhi could take down just about every market that you're looking at, really. I think Nadeem's a really good addition to Delhi. I think his spin, his control will be useful. It may actually take care of Chris Gayle early doors as well. And if it does, then happy days. You know, I just think it's value. We know Delhi are going to hit sixes. We ain't so sure Bangalore are, particularly if Gayle doesn't fire.
And one final bet to round off the season. You're going in the top bat market, and Kidder Jadhav is someone you've backed before. 6-1 here, Kev, and that looks a pretty juicy price with no AB around.
No AB around. He top scored in the reverse fixture between the two with 60 odd. He was belting sixes for fun in that game, wasn't he? Hopefully he doesn't do the latter part in this game, of course. He was a former Delhi Daredevil, so he'll know every inch of this ground. He'll know where you can hit, where you can't hit, how the wicket plays, everything that you need to know when you're going out to play a decent innings. Those above him have shown little or nothing really, apart from Mandeep Singh. He's done all right in the last few games, hasn't he? A couple of 30s and 40s. Fair play to him for that. Jadhav's an important member of the Indian side going forward, so he needs to maintain his form for the next few months. There can be no let up from him here. 6-1 on a ground that he's called his own plenty of times. Looks a big price regardless of how Bangalore are batting, but when you factor in just how badly they are batting, looks an even bigger price.
Okay, so 3 picks in this game. Delhi Daredevils to win, Delhi Daredevils most sixes, and Kidder Jadhav top RCB batsman. Okay, that concludes our podcast for the regular season IPL matches. Now it's time for the playoffs. And the first match, I do believe, is on Tuesday, Kev. We don't know who's in it yet. And there's another fixture going to be on Wednesday. So I hope you can all join us for those particular matches. I say thanks, everyone, for listening to these regular season IPL podcasts. But from this particular one, it's going to be goodbye from me.
Yeah, we're down to the nitty-gritty now, Steve. Cheerio, everyone, and we'll see you Tuesday.